Hello, and welcome to a video walkthrough for the board game Europa Universalis, The Price of Power, designed by Aegir Games. I'm going to be showing you a sample round in the game, demonstrating the flow and core mechanics. We'll be using a scenario involving the Western powers of France, England, and Castile. However, we will be skipping ahead in this game directly to the beginning of round 3. So we can see our realms with a greater deal of strength and resources, and thus more avenues of play to explore. England, in the north, has managed to subjugate the Irish, build up its merchant fleet, and maintain its provinces on the continent, all the while managing unrest and the War of the Roses event. France, in the centre of our board, has conquered the Duchy of Brittany, integrated the Duchy of Provence, and has focused on building up its stability, province development, and control of the Papal College of Cardinals, all providing them with many benefits. And finally, in the southwest, the Castile player has successfully completed the Reconquista, converted the people of Andalusia to Catholicism, and built up their influence in Aragon after the Iberian wedding event. With that, we're ready to hop into a quick overview of the game's structure of play. Europa Universalis is a game played in ages. There are 4 possible ages that a scenario can span, and the round we'll be playing today takes place in the first, the Age of Discovery. Each age has its own set of milestone objectives that can be met, providing victory points as well as monarch power or ducats, the game's coinage currency. Additionally, the ages all have their own set of possible events that can be triggered, as well as other minor special rules described in the rulebook. Now each age of the game is divided into 4 rounds, and each round is divided into 4 phases. These phases are the Draw Cards phase, Action phase, Peace and Rebels phase, and the Income and Upkeep phase, each of which is shown on the helpful player aid. Before we begin with our gameplay, I'm going to give an overview of the player mat. Provinces, represented by either large or small discs, are your primary source of income and manpower. Larger province discs are placed on the game's largest cities, such as Milan, Paris, or London. Next, vassal provinces are used to track the tax and manpower contributions of a nation's vassals. Following them, we can see the current pools of ducats and monarch power. Ducats can be earned and spent in a large variety of means. Monarch power as well, but is primarily accrued at the end of the round, when your monarch power is added to that of any advisor, the combined amount being immediately added. Finally, the armies and navy section. It is divided into slots for up to 3 armies and 1 navy. Now, you can have troops on the board outside of these forces, but it is far more efficient to move them in such structures. Each force displays slots for various unit types, as well as for a general or admiral to add to their combat strength. And so, we are now ready to dive into the first phase of the round, the Draw Cards phase. Our first course here is to set up our event cards for the round. We will deal out here a number of events equal to the number of players, but never less than 4, so we will draw an additional card. Next, we're going to flip the first 3 events, and we will only ever flip 3 right now, regardless of player count. The 4th event will be flipped when one of the face-up events is activated. Next, each player will draw 3 action cards from amongst the 3 color-coded decks, be they administrative, diplomatic, or military cards. The player is free to choose his 3 cards in any combination they desire, and may check the card they have drawn before having to draw their next. Then, each player must pay 2 ducats for each of their 3 cards that they do not wish to discard. I think Castile will choose to discard this Royal Marriage card, meaning that in order to keep these 2 other cards, we must pay 2 ducats for each card, discarding the 3rd. And lastly, for this phase, we will now draw or replace any missions in our hand. Now, missions are a primary source of victory points for a player. A player may at any time have 2 missions available to them in hand. As Castile, we've managed to complete one of the missions we held last turn, having completed this one the round before, and so we will be able to draw an extra mission from our deck of missions, and could choose to discard and replace this other one if we wish, but I think we'll hold on to it for now. What we will take is Claims in Aragon mission, which if we score, will award us with 5 victory points, claims in Portugal, Sicily, and Naples. Note that each mission, except for the green missions, will have previous missions that are required for them to be completed, and so I cannot complete Caribbean Colony until I've completed 1B, Discover Caribbean. But I could have still drawn this card into my hand this round, even though I have not yet completed its prerequisite. And that will conclude the phase. Now we move into the main phase of the game, the action phase. Starting with the first player, the first person to pass in the previous round, each player will take one action. Then, proceeding clockwise around the table until one player has passed in the two-player game, two have passed in the three-player game, or three have passed in larger games. At that point, all remaining players will have a chance to play one more round, and additionally take an event if they have not yet done so. Only one event may be taken per player per round. We will now start the phase with our first player, Castile. Castile is eager to begin their colonial empire, and will select to take the Christopher Columbus event, allowing them to research the quest for the New World idea. We will now start the phase with our first player, Castile. Castile is eager to begin their colonial empire, and will select to take the Christopher Columbus event, allowing them to research the quest for the New World idea for 2 diplomatic monarch power. Ideas are unlocks that a player can buy for their action, and provide powerful bonuses and abilities. The quest for the New World idea allows us to explore new continents. We also get a bonus monarch power of our choice. Castile will select a diplomatic cube. Furthermore, researching idea awards us 5 victory points. If we are the second or greater player to research an idea, we only receive 3 victory points. In addition, the first player to research it will receive 2. The event also allows us to perform a free explore action, so we will perform one now. Normally, this requires us to spend a diplomatic and military monarch power. First, we're going to take one of our ships on the coast of Morocco, north. Ships have a movement distance of 2 spaces, and then second over into the Caribbean Sea. The letter C here indicates that I can move from here to zones marked with C on the distant continents maps. Next, we can roll the exploration dice, which will show a number corresponding to the area we can discover, and, potentially, a skull icon. The skull icon would force us to pay 1 diplomatic cube or lose the ship and fail the exploration. Additionally, if we don't get a skull icon, we can instead place a claim on an NPR area, NPR standing for non-player realm. Our dice result shows a 1. Now, we can spend 1 DP to re-roll this dice, but we have no real need to do so here. So now we can place our claim token on the Caribbean, as it bears the symbol 1. Then, we can complete our mission, Discover Caribbean, giving us 3 victory points and 2 colonists in the colonist pool. I will mark the mission as completed with one of my cubes. Next, place 2 colonists in the colonist pool. Next, with the selection of an event card, we're going to be placing 2 ducats on unpicked face-up events, and flipping over the face-down event. This encourages players to not necessarily always take the event you want in the first turn. Also, when Castile takes their own event with a historical ruler, they must be appointed their new monarch. Note that in a case where another player were to trigger it, Castile would be allowed to choose whether or not to take the ruler. And finally, as a result of exploring an area in the North America continent, we will be adding in new trade cards to the trade deck, adding any of the cards listing North America on it, and shuffling it into the active deck. England now gets their turn. Eager to avoid France picking up the Law of Heresy event and hitting them with the harsher second option, they will take the event themselves, and choose the first option to stop the heretics. This will add unrested 2 English provinces, England putting those in Northumbria by choice, and will gain 1 victory point as well as 1 monarch power in the military category. Switching over to France, we're going to be constructing a spy network, which will allow us to use a couple of powerful abilities, provided we also pay the cost. This card itself requires us to spend 2 diplomatic power, as well as 3 ducats, which we do so now. Switching back to Castile, we're going to take another explore action, and start spreading the Castilian flag all over the New World. We don't need to move any ships here, so I've just rolled. Now I've rolled another 1, but there are no areas with a 1 that I can explore here. As there is no skull icon, however, I can place a claim on Mexico, or Central America. We'll choose Mexico. Next, switching over to England, they're going to play the Revolutionary Ideas card from their hand. They're going to play 1 admin because of the cost in the top left, as well as then paying 2 monarch points in the military category to research cannons. taking 2 military power, spending it, and then placing 1 on the cannon's idea to show that they've researched it. This allows them to recruit artillery units for their armies. Also, they get to immediately place 1 artillery unit in one of their armies. In addition, since France has already researched this idea, France will receive 2 victory points, whereas England will receive 3 victory points. Next, France is going to take a trade action. Paying 1 diplomatic mana, it gives the opportunity to move one of its merchants, but we're going to go ahead and leave them where they are. So next, we draw 3 cards from the trade deck and choose one. Here, we have only 1 successful card, as only 1 card lists a trade node within which we have a merchant placed, so the choice is obvious. We select the Genoa node from this card. This activates our merchant there, and then everyone who has a merchant collects ducats. We add up trade power from various sources. 1 point comes from the merchant himself, 1 point for each additional adjacent lightship, and 1 to each province they control which is listed. This gives France a total of 3 power and so 8 ducats, since neither player controls any of the listed provinces, while Castile also earns 5 ducats, since they have 2 trade power. Next, Castile is up. We're going to take a colonize action as Castile. This allows us to spend any amount of admin power we currently have and to place it in the colonist pool. Now that we've reached 5 colonists in the colonist pool, we can decide to elect to convert those 5, removing it from the colonist pool, and we can place a province down instead of a claim on one of our colonies. So we'll switch out the claim on the Caribbean for a province. Now, England will take their own trade action, as their treasury is quite low. We pay the 1 diplomatic power, and then draw 3 trade cards. Note that since England's merchants are placed currently in the North Sea and English Channel trade nodes, the action fails because neither trade node successfully appeared in the cards. France believes it is time to finish the 100 Years' War for good, and is going to bulk up their army with a recruitment action. Spending 1 military coup, they may now recruit as many soldiers and ships as they want in as many locations. But they only really want to beef up their single mainland army. We're going to recruit 1 artillery, 1 cavalry, and 4 infantry. Now this will cost us 6, 5, and 8 for the 4 units of infantry. We've now finished paying for our recruitment, leaving us with 2 ducats and 1 loan. This has given us a sizable new army, while also leaving room for more loans should the war turn against us. Back up with England, it looks like war is definitely coming their way from France, but they're still broke, so we're going to need to trade again and hopefully get some money. Spending our 1 diplomatic cube, we draw 3 trade cards. And now, France will spend 1 military power to declare war on England. Each player will now place their respective war tokens on the capital of the other player. We will use Conquest of Area with our claims on it for the Casus Belli, 1 in Aquitaine and 1 in Brittany, so as to avoid no Casus Belli war which would cause negative repercussions. Since this declaration of war did not immediately cause a battle from ships or armies in the same area, France may activate their army in Loire, moving it west to siege Bordeaux next turn. Note that France is allied to Scotland. It will take, however, a recruitment action to issue a call to arms and raise an army there to formally bring their ally into the war. This is the case for offensive wars. Castile will now spend 1 diplomatic cube and the vassalize/annex card to vassalize Aragon. They must discard influence equal to the total tax income of Aragon, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, with large provinces counting twice. Their royal marriage token allows them to discard 1 less than the required amount. And so, we only need to discard 8 influence from Aragonese areas. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It doesn't matter which areas we choose to discard the influence from, as long as each area contains at least 1 province belonging to Aragon. We will discard the influence now. Next, we will take vassal tokens from our player mat and place them on Aragonese provinces, placing 2 vassal tokens on the larger provinces. Here we can see the result. Aragon has been annexed, and Castile has now played a great number of vassal provinces tokens across the Mediterranean. This will allow Castile to complete the mission claims in Aragon, as we now vassalize all provinces in the Aragon area except Navarra, and we are at peace. This will award us with 5 victory points and claims in Portugal, Sicily, and Naples. England will first make sure that France cannot cross the Channel with a lucky naval battle, and thus will move the rest of their fleet into the Channel to secure England itself. Spending 1 military cube, they may move all ships in one area to another area, like so. France, on their turn, will take a siege action with their army, spending 1 military cube to activate one of the units in their army. They will choose to activate one of the artillery units, giving them a siege strength of 2. One of the strengths of artillery is their value of 2 when it comes to siege strength. This will allow them to take Bordeaux, a large province, and put one of their own discs in its place, in unrest. Castile is content saving remaining resources for the next round, and will pass. They collect 5 ducats in a 3-player game, and though they pass first, since they were already first player, they will still pass off the first player token to the next player to pass. England will now recruit up their own army. Will take 4 infantry, 2 cavalry, and an artillery unit. This will cost us a combined total of 24 ducats. We only have 20, so we'll also need to take a loan to cover the expenses. Here we have our treasury after paying for our new troops. We've elected to place all of our soldiers into our army that is stationed in Wales, although we were not forced to do so. Note, as England was declared war on this round, we don't actually have to pay a military cube for our first recruitment action. France will continue its march of conquest on the mainland, spending 1 military cube to move its army from Aquitaine to Brittany and Normandy. England will actually take this opportunity to declare war on Scotland, France's ally in the north. Since this does not start a battle, England will move its army north into Scotland. Armies can move 2 spaces, but must stop if entering a hostile or neutral area, so we can pass from Wales into Northumbria, and then into Scotland. Upon invading a non-player realm, we must fight an army equal to their tax income in that area and in adjacent areas. We just have to fight 4 enemy units in this case. NPR armies are considered always infantry, so we're going to grab 4 infantry tokens from the rebel supply. Next, since the enemy army is 3 units of larger, we will draw a card from the military deck to serve as their general. We can see that this general here provides 2 white dice. We will add those to the roll for the NPR army. England, on the other hand, will assign Alexander as its general. This will cost them 1 military cube. Alexander will provide 2 orange cavalry dice to their roll. These extra dice are added to the default 3 white or infantry dice for either side. Now we will roll up dice for each faction. We can see here that England has scored 3 infantry symbols and 1 cavalry symbol. Since they have at least as many matching units of that type in their army, they will score 4 hits. Scotland will score 2 hits as they have 2 infantry symbols but no cannons, so they will score no cannon hits. England will now assign 2 casualties. We'll assign it to the infantry as they are the cheapest to replace, and put the manpower in the exhausted section. As a result of winning a battle, England will also gain 1 military power. Following the battle, England will pay 1 military power to play the Siege Assault card. We will roll infantry dice equal to tax income of provinces sieged, and take a casualty for each infantry result. We're going to be sieging all 4 provinces in Scotland, and we'll roll all 4 dice. This result means we will take 2 more casualties as a result of the Siege Assault. France will complete its siege of English provinces in rightful French land, and spend 2 military power to activate both of its artillery units. This will give them a siege strength of 4, enough to remove all 3 of England's small provinces and replace them with French ones in unrest. England will now play 1 military power to move its somewhat depleted army south from Scotland into East Anglia. France will now take its event. Aware that Castile is having free reign to the south, they take the Unhappy Artisans card and will target Castile. Castile will then have to choose to lose a stability or 10 ducats. Castile will elect to pay the 10 ducats, as they have a lot of money in their treasury. France gets to take the 4 ducats that were placed on the card earlier in the round and added to their treasury. The pirate flag symbol means they may place a pirate ship in a trade node. A pirate ship will reduce the trade power of any realm that takes a trade action in that node by 1. so France will elect to place the trade node in Sevilla to further harm Castile. England will now spend 1 military power to move their combined fleet into the Bay of Biscay. England deems it safe to move its entire fleet, as it would take France 2 turns to both recruit new ships in the English Channel and to transport their army over. With 5 ships against 2, England does not feel the need to pay for an admiral, and France doesn't either, considering a loss here is largely inevitable. The players therefore will both roll 3 blue dice each. Here we can see the results of the dice roll. England has scored 2 hits, and thus the French fleet has been destroyed. The French at least have managed to score 1 hit in return, and the English will be forced to remove one of their own ships as a casualty. England will of course gain 1 military power as a result of winning a battle. The French will now decide to pass, as an invasion of England is not possible at this time, and will attempt to end the war diplomatically in the peace and rebels phase. France will gain 2 ducats as a result of passing second, and, using these 6 ducats in their inventory, will pay off one of their loans. England, as the final action of the round, will move their ships back into the English Channel to defend England next turn should the war continue. Next is the Peace and Rebels phase. We will skip the remove all truce tokens from the board, invasions, and rebel unit siege provinces phase, as none of them apply in this situation. In player order now, each player will resolve all their wars in making peace. Skipping Castile, as they have no wars, we reach England. First, they may annex all of Scotland, as it is entirely occupied and its armies shattered. Note that all wars are resolved independently, even though Scotland was France's ally. This is to resolve bloated wars becoming a nightmare of treaties, tracking war leaders, and such. England has removed its war token from Scotland now that it is annexed. It has also removed France's alliance token, 2 unrest from provinces in the area due to the claim it had, and then the claim, since it now controls all provinces in the area. For our purposes, we will ignore the war with France for the rest of the demo, as such a high-stakes war would take a great deal of diplomacy and negotiation to resolve. Or perhaps the players would wish to continue hostility into the next round. In the latter event, England and France would both have to add 2 unrests to their provinces. The remainder of the round would be spent rolling rebel dice for all unrests as the end of the rebels phase. Last, the income and upkeep phase. This will see each player collect income, pay expenses for troops, ships, and advisors, and they will collect monarch power and refresh some of their spent manpower. We're going to skip those actions for France and England, as their war negotiations would play a large role. The Castilian income is 20 ducats, adding up the total tax income of their provinces and vassal provinces. They gain 3 administrative power from their monarch and advisor, 5 diplomatic power, and 5 military power. Then they will add 1 colonist to the colonist pool for every claim they have on a distant continent, which is 1. France would also gain 1 victory point for their courier control and an additional diplomatic cube. And with that, we end our walkthrough video. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have any questions, please feel free to join our Discord channel, where we organize games, discuss the rules, and answer questions.